The Bible Treasury. A monthly magazine of papers on scriptural subjects. Volume 19, Article 1, Part 79 of 93, 1892 and 1893. The Early Chapters of Genesis. By William Kelly. Genesis 10 verse 27. After the four sons of Joktan already noticed, we have now before us three, and Hadoram, and Uzal, and Diklah, verse 27. The fifth son appears to have settled farther east in that part of the peninsula which has long been designated Oman and gives its name to the lower waters of the Persian Gulf, opening into the Indian Ocean. The southeastern headland of that deep bay is called Ras El Had, which must be carefully distinguished from Ras Fartask or Fardux, the wild boar snout, answering to its Greek designation of I plus or minus I superscript 3 a 1/4 I degree I plus or minus, Toll 6-7, A11. It is the more necessary to be on one's guard, as of old we learn from the Alexandrian geographer that the position of the latter was misconceived by his predecessor, Marinus, and in this Marcianus, Hudson's Geography Gr. Min I 24, agrees with the correction. In modern times D'Anville, followed by many, as e.g. Long's Classical Atlas, confounded Siagro with Ras El Had. Dean Vincent in his earlier writings had been thus misled, but he corrected himself in his elaborate work on the so-called Periplus of Orion, 331-351. The classical title of the headland we are occupied with is really I plus or minus I 1/4 I 1/2 A 1/4 I degree I 1/2. As the learned Bochet long ago conjectured from the name of the forefather therein disguised, i.e. from Hadoramim. So convinced is Mr. Forster of its soundness that he does not hesitate to say, the fact, unnoticed by Bochet, is simply this, that the promontory now actually bears the name of Hadoram, under an ordinary abbreviation of the Arabic, in its modern appellation of Ras El Had, I 141. It is indeed a confirmation not to be despised also that Commodore Owen's survey first gave the correct form of this bay, accompanied by what is more important for our present object, its Arabic name, Bunsduram or Duram, the Bay of Duram. Abbreviations of this kind are notorious in that tongue as in others, as Dara or Dora for Adoraim, and Jok for Joktan. It appears too from the manuscript journal of Captain Sadleir that there is still existing in the desert of Olasu on the northern confines of Oma and the tribe Dreman, which corresponds with the Dramati of whom Pliny speaks as being in this quarter. So he does of the Fons Dora and of the Dari, which the last word has its analogue in a town and tribe at this day. Hadoram, in the LXX. A 1/2 IIA yen A 3/4, seems not obscurely traceable in a race singularly unyielding. It may also be observed that, if we heed the statement of Dionysius, there was a district on the east of Arabia called Chadramus south of Chaldamus, Bahrain, opposite to Persia, which agrees with the north of Oman. This race must be distinguished from the Adamati, or Shadametitai, that sprang from Hazarmaveth and lived in Hadromot on the south. The town of Hadroma corresponds apparently. Uzal, in the VAT text of the LXX. IA 1/4 degree I superscript 2 I registered trademark I, PROB air. For IA 1/4 degree I registered trademark I in others, is named in the 6th place, and gave his name in ancient times to the capital city of Yemen, afterwards and still Sana'a. Mr. E. S. Poole cites the printed edition of the Marasid, which says that its name was Uzal, and when the Abyssinians arrived at it and saw it to be beautiful, they said, Sana'a, which means beautiful, and therefore it was called Sana'a. Arabic authors have compared this with Damascus for its waters and its fruits, as Niebuhr says its houses and palaces are finer than those of any other town in Arabia. The Jews, it seems, who are immemorially settled there, only know it by the name of Uzal. That there should be other traces of the name is natural, but we need not dwell on what is disputable, having a record so direct and clear. The authorized version of Ezekiel 27 verse 19 has darkened an important reference, which stands no better in the revised. Dr. Henderson and Mr. Darby present it thus: Vedon and Javan of Uzal traded in thy Tyrus markets, wrought iron, cassia, and calamus were in thy truffle or barter. The LXX. Render it from Asel, the Syriac, and Aquila from Uzel. As of verse 17 gave Judah and Israel, it is possible that Dan or Vedon and Javan were of the Arab race, and Uzel their emporium. So Dath renders the clause, and Dawet adds to them Mehusal, as the Vulgate Mosul, for a third trafficker. Diodati in his French, as well as Italian version, preferred Dan also, and the vagabond Javan in its Greek application. Dr. Binnis has for Uzel spun yarn, and Dr. Leeser silken goods according to other points. Of Dikla, the eighth name, there is little to say. From signifying palm trees some have looked to the city III superscript 1 I 1/2 II degree II 1/2 in the northwest of Arabia Felix, but Gazinius after Bochet for a similar reason inclined to find his descendants in the widely spread people classically called Manii. But Mr. Forster strenuously contends that they were of the stock of Jera and that the great region of Kerja copyright or Karja copyright is none other than an anagrammatic inversion, so common in Arab names, of the patriarch Jera himself. Into this discussion we do not enter, but anyone can discern in the Dulclati, of whom Goliath speaks in his lexicon, a name that answers to the son of Joktan we are now tracing, from whom descended a people of Yemen between Sana'a and Marib. Pocock also refers to them as Dhul Kala. Yet Mr. Poole is unaware of any trace of Dikla in Arabic works, except the mention of a place called Dakala in El Yamama, mentioned by Camus, where grew many palm trees. Enough then appears to this day, even as to the least conspicuous of these early tribes of Arabia, not only to testify to the Mosaic account but to demonstrate the gracious interest of God in the otherwise obscure and undistinguished races of mankind. We shall have occasion to speak of some not of the Shemitic stock who seems to have been the first that entered the peninsula, as they also penetrated elsewhere the earliest after the dispersion. Also, we have to take note of the repeated influx of the Abrahamic seed, outside those chosen and called, who settled in its wide domain and gave special form to a characteristic portion of its denizens. But this must suffice for the earlier names of Joktan's sons.